They thought it was over. They genuinely, hilariously believed that a 6-point gap in early November meant they had finally exorcised the Manchester City ghost. The airwaves were thick with smug, self-congratulatory noise. Arsenal was impeccable. Arsenal was remorseless. Arsenal had the mentality and the glorious, unbreakable defense. It was a lovely, heartwarming narrative, wasn't it? A feel-good story for the entire fucking world.
And say Arsenal will win the league, Pierce. We need to hear them words, please, mate.
100%. Arsenal, I've seen enough. Arsenal will win the Premier League. Liverpool are overrated. They've been very lucky so far this season. And by the way, look at the games we've had to play so far in the Premier League, right? Arsenal have had by far the toughest start to the league. And look where we are, sniffing just off the top. You watch the next 3 months. Arsenal, I suspect, will now go on an absolute tear. Big games out the way. We are going to win the league. I wouldn't be surprised if we win it by mid-March. This is the best Arsenal squad in my memory. And if Arteta unleashes the dogs, the Hounds will bring the silverware home.
So will you put your neck on the line?
Big 5 games coming up for either team. I think if Arsenal get through these, I think Arsenal win the league.
Just Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, just.
My brain always took me to the place where we are lifting the Premier League. That's what my brain is doing at the moment. So I just follow my brain and my gut, and this is how I feel. And this is as well the way that I want everybody to think, and hopefully we can achieve it.
I've got to go Arsenal again. I've got to double down, and I've gone their last 2 seasons. They finished second in the last 3 seasons, actually. But I didn't back them the first season. I backed City. But I've backed them the last 2. I'm going to stick with them.
Who's going to win? We're still waiting for you at Arsenal. They're not going to win the...
But what the naive masses, the emotional pundits, and the hopelessly optimistic Gooners failed to realize is that Pep Guardiola does not operate in the noisy, chaotic foreground. He operates in the deep, dark background. He is not the rampaging beast. He is the quiet, clinical predator. And while Arsenal was busy celebrating their early lead, Pep was simply sharpening his claws, waiting for the perfect moment to execute the greatest, most psychologically damaging Premier League heist in history. The gap is now a terrifying 2 points. The silence for Manchester is deafening, and it's a silence that is about to swallow the entire league whole. Pep Guardiola is not just the greatest tactical coach of his generation. He is the most brilliant, Oscar-worthy performance artist in football history. While Arsenal were marching through October, Pep put on a masterful show of distress. He looked worried. He made those baffling, self-sabotaging tactical switches. He publicly confessed to too many changes and took absolutely the responsibility for those few confusing losses against teams like Leverkusen and the domestic hiccup against Newcastle. This wasn't incompetence, people. This was a tactical feint. He convinced the world he was exhausted, burnt out, and finally vulnerable after the treble. It was the most expensive, most highly produced rope-a-dope strategy ever devised. And what was his spoken mantra during this period of feigned vulnerability? The ultimate psychological weapon. He looked Mikel Arteta dead in the eye through the medium of the press conference and said he would be the first to call and congratulate Mikel if Arsenal won the title.
Okay, continue as long as possible. We'll see at the end. If the Arsenal win, I will be the first to call Mikel and congratulate him, like he has done in the past. The first.
Maybe because you've been so successful during your time here that when things aren't going perfectly, there are a lot of questions. But you're second in the Premier League, you're in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, well placed in the Champions League. I think you're second or top scorers in the Premier League. That when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, that you perhaps would have taken this position now if you were offered it in the summer.
Yes. So always I try to see how is the team developing, and that is my feeling. I want to feel that we are getting better. Of course, being close in the top of the league, in the Champions League, if we would take us all Leverkusen, would be in the perfect position. Now it's a little bit will be more difficult, but myself from the beginning, I'm happy, I'm positive. I think the team will do well, and about what the people say.
Talked about Arsenal strengthening the squad over the last few windows. I mean, they spent about
£250 million in the summer. It feels like they're trying to take that next step to win the title. I mean, what sort of a statement do you think they've made with their spending and what they've done?
Well, it is. I decided to do it to Arsenal. Only I want to say to my friend Mikel Arteta, if he win the title, it will be just because
now
he
think
spent.
about that. That isn't respect. That is pure, grade A, fucking mind games. It's the equivalent of telling your boxing opponent, go ahead, take your best shot, I'll be fine. It forces Arsenal to acknowledge the mountain they still have to climb, and it subtly reminds them of the brutal reality. Even if they finish the job, they still need Pep's permission. His key statement? The real season starts now, he said after the international break. Translation? The summer fun is over, kids. Daddy's back in the office. He plays the humble elder statesman, the seasoned veteran who knows that the pressure of December is heavier than the joy of October. He doesn't need to win every battle. He just needs Arsenal to remember the taste of defeat when the lights are brightest. And speaking of defeat, you know how you steal a title from Arsenal? You don't take it all at once. You nibble away at their mental fortitude one tiny heartbreaking mistake at a time. And Arsenal has, in spectacular fashion, given Pep everything he needed. They have now dropped points in 3 consecutive away games. The very moment the calendar turns nasty, the weather turns foul, and the pressure cooker lid starts to rattle. Act 1, the Chelsea handbrake. Arsenal travels to Stamford Bridge, a massive game, a chance to show dominance, and what do? They play with the handbrake on. A disappointing draw that leaves a sour taste, proving they still lack that final necessary homicidal gear to finish off a rival. Act 2, the Sunderland slog. A draw against a hard-working, stubborn Sunderland side where they were forced to scramble back into the game. A point dropped against a team they should be crushing. A small crack appears in the impeccable facade. And Act 3, the Villa agony. And then came the masterpiece of self-sabotage, the 1-2 loss to Aston Villa. A game where they were in control, fighting, but a final stoppage-time winner from Emi Buendía slammed the door shut on their 6-point lead. That late goal, that final brutal dagger wasn't just 3 points, it was a devastating psychological trauma. It was the past 2 season collapses whispering, it's happening again. Mikel Arteta looked like a man who had seen a ghost, admitting that losing that way was extremely disappointing, and that the players felt everything that you put in, it hasn't been worth it. That, my friends, is the sound of doubt creeping into the dressing room. And Pep Guardiola was already on his way. While Arsenal were busy having an emotional breakdown at Villa Park, what was the quiet, methodical machine doing? It was simply getting its 3 points. A clinical, dominant 3-0 victory over Sunderland. No fuss, no drama, just the terrifying sound of competence. This is where Pep's genius truly shows. When the pressure ramped up, he didn't rely on the predictable Haaland rocket, he relied on the system. Who scored the goals? The centre-backs. Rúben Diaz and Joško Gvardiol found the net, proving that the threat can literally come from anywhere. This wasn't about the individual performance, it was about the systemic performance. It was about Pep's much-vaunted consistency finally clicking back into place. And just to rub Arsenal's face in the sheer, opulent superiority, they introduced Rayan Cherki, who decided to execute a ridiculous, unnecessary Rabona cross assist for Phil Foden. A Rabona assist, against a deep-lying defence. That's not football, that's just showing off. That's Pep sending a message that his B-side is so confident they're scoring with their feet tied behind their backs. Remember Pep's earlier theatrical concerns about too many changes? Forget them. The rotation has stopped. The second-half drop-offs, which haunted them earlier in the season, have vanished. They are now playing for the full 95 minutes, applying sustained, relentless, suffocating pressure. Pep is now in the mode he perfects every single year. He has his team playing their best football after the Christmas break, right as the weaker mentalities in the league start to crumble under the weight of the fixtures. He has weaponized the calendar, and what was a 6-point advantage is now a meagre 2-point buffer. 2 points. That's a single unfortunate VAR call away from being wiped out entirely. It's like Arsenal built a beautiful, majestic sandcastle and Pep just sent one single, gentle, yet powerful wave of inevitability to wash it all away. This is what Pep does. He lets the other children play with the trophy for a bit. He lets them take the photos, enjoy the headlines, and build up that fragile, beautiful hope. And then, slowly, silently, he turns on the crushing engine of inevitability. The historical data is damning, freaking damning. Arsenal have lost the title race to City twice in the last 2 seasons, crumbling under pressure that City thrives on. The memory of that 4-1 thrashing in 2023, the 5-1 annihilation in 2024, these memories live in the walls of the dressing room. They live in the back of the players' minds like a nasty little parasite. And what is the final, ultimate, terrifying weapon in Pep's Arsenal? The schedule. Arsenal still have to travel to the Etihad Stadium in April. The Etihad, a place where the Gunners have a record so thicking miserable it should be censored. A place where City is generally unbreakable. That single fixture is not worth 3 points. It is worth 6 points psychologically. If Pep can keep the gap at 2 or 3 points until April, he doesn't just win the game, he wins the war. He breaks their collective spirit, forcing Arsenal to face their greatest trauma on the enemy's home ground. This is the quiet theft, the masterful long con. He lets the other children play with the trophy for a bit, he lets them take the photos, enjoy the headlines, and build up that fragile, beautiful hope. And then, slowly, silently, he turns on the crushing engine of inevitability. He's not panicking, he's smiling. He knows the real season has begun. He knows that consistency, not early swagger, is the champion maker. He knows that the psychological weight of those 2 lost seasons is hanging over the Emirates like a massive, lead-filled rain cloud. The gap is 2 points. The machine is purring, the Rabona crosses are flying. So go ahead, Arsenal, celebrate your beautiful early form. But just know that in the shadows, the bald, humble, congratulatory assassin is waiting. And he is about to steal your dream. Again.